who this Gen Alpha is.
It is the Gen Alpha who's already got the maximum access to information. You know, like I'll still sit on my phone and put an alarm and she'll be like, Alexa,
Hi.
I'm your host Anand, and on this amazing episode, I have with me the one and only Mansi Zaveri. Thank you so much for joining us today.
thank you. It feels great to be on the other side and not being on the
Absolutely.
interviewing side. I'm relieved for once.
Over 2 million Gen Alphas that are born every week, and that's actually accounting for, in the next 3 years, by 2025, that's going to be 2 billion of our world's population. And the fantastic part, Mansi, I don't know if it's fantastic or not, but India is the maximum creator of Gen Alphas in the world.
Yes.
So we will have the biggest population of Gen Alphas in the world coming from India. And that's the reason why the Curious Minds at NEPA were actually at work to kind of decode who this Gen Alpha is. So one thing to kind of start us off with is that how do you define Alpha? Right, we know the Gen Zs that came before, and we know the millennials who are around. But what is Alpha for you?
Anand, I would describe this generation, and I'm actually at the cusp of raising, you know, the 2010 onwards is Gen Alpha, and I have one which is 2008 and one which is 2012. That those my kids were born that 4 years apart, and I see a difference even in those 4 years apart, right? So for me, Gen Alpha is somebody who's been raised with technology as probably a pacifier very, very early on. I didn't see that maybe 4 years ago with my elder one. I feel there's someone who are very intuitive to technology, very collaborative, very confident. They're very, voice versus read, for the lack of better terms. They're also very, we were all based with touch. Like, touch was a big thing for us. But for them, it's all, like I'll still sit on my phone and put an alarm and she'll be like, Alexa, or she'll just go, Siri, set an alarm for 10 minutes. And I'll be like, did my child just do that? And also, we've got to realize, the radio took about 38 years to reach 50 million people. Facebook took a year. TV took about 15 odd years. Pokemon Go took 19 days to garner that 50 million population, right? Wow. So what are we talking about? Of course, that is Gen Alpha, right?
So would you care to talk about that? What are some, do they see it as an advantage or disadvantage, or it's kind of blinded out to them?
So I think anything has its advantages and disadvantages, right? But I think, and to name a few, I think, of course, the speed at which they're thinking, I think they've made, made national boundaries redundant. They're playing at a global playing field. All of that, right? Just during the pandemic, my kids did so many classes or courses with, they were learning piano lessons from somebody in London, or they were taking Spanish classes from somebody in Spain, or they were doing something at the Johns Hopkins University. Where would they get this opportunity? And it's not a millennial driving that decision making. It is the Gen Alpha who's already got the maximum access to information, driving decision making for themselves, using information, right? So of course there's access to information, there's faster decision making, they're equipped with the best tools, resources, all of that. They're a very entitled generation as well, in a way endowing one as well, very materialistically endowing. That's why, guys, how do you explain that iPad and iPhone? Every child's thinks when will I get that iPhone, right? Absolutely. And uske baad to kuch hai hi nahi, that it stops at iOS devices, right? So I think as a generation, while they're very hyper connected, they're very socially impaired. And I think as parents, we probably need to fix that alongside that access that they've got.
No, absolutely. I think that one of the interesting things is that maybe going forward as generations, you actually know about people before you even meet them.
Yeah.
So, and they are expert searchers. I mean, they can go on Google and find anything. Yeah. And from that perspective, in fact, even in our research also, we found that the internet was the first place they'd go to kind of spot check whether, their parents are fibbing or they're whether it's actually the case. And many kids are doing that, and it's so easy for them to do that. So it becomes their first source of truth. There's an estrangement that's happening, because they're digital, but at the same time, they're part of multiple collectives, right? So in terms of the Indian kind of lifestyle that we've had, versus the global online collective that they're part of, right? When an alpha, would you agree to this statement that an alpha doesn't really care about what people think about himself or herself? Would you agree or disagree with that statement?
I think I would agree that they don't really care about voicing their opinion. They're far more in sync with what they think. They don't, as Indians, we had a lot of filters, right? We had to respect elders. How can you say this to parents? Just one will feel bad. But they don't distinguish. There's no gray for them.
Yeah.
I think it's very black or white, and they believe because of access to information, because of, like you said, no fibbing, they're like very fact based.
Right.
So if you are correct, there's no reason for you to walk the gray line.
Right.
You're yes or you're no. You're a black or white. So it's very, very simple. And I think they're far more like I said earlier, that they're very, very inclusive. They're not scared to speak their mind. They may, though, at some occasions, and I wish that this is not the truth, but I feel that it will be, which is that they've seen social at a very, very, at a very early age, formative years, right? Like during COVID, 6 generations were trapped in COVID together.
Yeah.
The most adaptable one was probably Gen Alpha. Did they see it at the, were there milestones or were the larger perspective as much as what the baby boomers or the millennials saw? No, probably not. But so their milestones or their goalposts are I feel very jarred, because they don't have somewhere a benchmark to it, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that is the tough one for them. But I definitely feel that they're very confident and self-assured, and that's why we see a lot of acceptance coming in from them. Why are we having a lot of conversations on topics that were tabooed until now, right? Because there is a lot of acceptance coming in from Gen Z that's spilling over to alphas.
For parenting tips, celebrity interviews, recipes, conversations with experts, DIYs, and lots more. Subscribe to Kids Talk Press now.